my audience for my introduction expository speech. How many of you know a female police officer or deputy? I'm assuming very many of you maybe know one, if not more than one, because there's not very many of them, especially in this area. Today I'm doing my speech on women in law enforcement and why there isn't very many of them and the numbers of how many there are. First of all, I'm going to start off by saying there's only 13% of all law enforcement officers are female. And that number is questionable. Sometimes some websites say 11, sometimes they say 13. No one's really sure. Of that 13%, only 7% are higher ups. So like a lieutenant, captain, things like that, only 7% of them are females. And of that 13%, only 5% of all of those numbers are African American females, which is not a very big number. A lot of this is due to sexual harassment towards females in law enforcement, and also it is due to discrimination against women, which women in the workforce have been discriminated against since the beginning of time. It's obviously gotten better, but there's still male-dominated fields that women are discriminated against, and policing is one of them. It also has to do with the testing qualifications for the physicals for police departments and sheriff's departments. A lot of sheriff's departments and police departments have been sued or have been filed lawsuits against or all kinds of things because their testing requirements for women are higher standards than their requirements for men. The sheriff's department where I work at, their testing is pretty equal. In a lot of the areas around here in the Midwest, everything's pretty equal from what I have seen and read about. But in a lot of big cities and in recent years, many have changed, but previously they haven't. They're pretty hard standards for women, which cut women out right away because in the hiring process, the first thing you do is the physical agility. With discrimination, a lot of women are looked down upon or are looked the other way. When I talk about discrimination, I'm talking about people thinking that women are incompetent and cannot do jobs correctly. From people I've talked to about it, a lot of people think that emotions get in the way. A lot of people think that women are too soft when it comes to dealing with things. And I think a lot of it is that people just look down upon women when it comes to roles such as law enforcement, firefighters, army, things like that. They just don't think women can do it when women obviously can do it and they have done it, but they just don't get pushed as much as men do. Being discriminated against, a lot of men will look at you and think that you're incapable or that you just can't do the job correctly, and obviously you can, and it puts a damper on your career because if people are always looking at you and telling you you can't do it, you're obviously going to get that mindset in your head, which is not something good to get in your head. And also when you're the only female in a whole department, it's obviously a different work environment than most female careers because a lot of careers obviously have more than one female, but I know the sheriff's department I work for, out of the 20 full-time officers, there's only one female, and so that's only 5%, obviously. And if I was one of the 5%, I know that'd be hard to do my job because, I mean, that's a lot of testosterone to be around at one time. So it does make your job harder. And if you're the only female, I mean, it's hard to be accepted, I guess. It's kind of like you're walking into a brotherhood, and a lot of law enforcement is a brotherhood. So you're either accepted or you're not, and if you're not accepted, then your job will be hard, obviously. Another thing is sexual harassment. In male-dominated fields, such as law enforcement, sexual harassment is a huge problem. And if there's only a few females in the career choice, then those females are obviously going to be targeted no matter what they look like, and can be verbally sexually harassed or physically sexually harassed. And a lot of times in law enforcement, from the cases I've read, women don't want to come forward because they feel like they have to uphold this strong figure, and they don't want to be looked down upon by people because they are telling or trying to get something changed. And a lot of time, higher ups won't even listen to them because they're the only female, and they just brush it off basically, and so females just don't want to tell. And so when I was researching sexual harassment and things like that, domestic violence, there's not very much research on it when it comes to women in policing, because no one ever tells, and if they do, they try to keep it hush-hush so the media doesn't find out about it, which is not very good, but it's the case. And when you're a female and you're around all those men, obviously sexual remarks are going to be made, and I mean, you basically have to have a hard shell, or you have to have a good sense